So I did want to touch on this Toronto thing because we are a cannabis stream, right? And that's one of the big things we talk about is I really feel like we need to get away from drug illegalities. We need to move towards a system that revolves around treatment, that revolves around health, and stops criminalizing people for doing what makes them feel good. I don't give a fuck. Like, as long as you're not like a burden to society, like, as long as you're not fucking out murdering people or robbing people or killing people or doing other shit that you shouldn't be doing, vandalizing shit or whatever else, you know, like, if you just want to sit in your house and do a bunch of drugs, hey, amen, have at it, man. Have at it, Hoss. I don't give a flying fuck. But, you know, I mean, that's where I'm at with it. You know, unless you're actually hurting other people, fucking, it's your body, dude. Do whatever the fuck you want, man. So, that said, I want to go into this one a little bit. And this is from CP24. Sounds like a Canadian news outlet, I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay. City's top doctor recommends decriminalizing possession of small amounts of illicit drugs in Toronto. Toronto's medical officer of health is recommending that possession of small quantities of illegal drug be decriminalized within the city's geographical boundaries. The recommendation, which will be presented to the city's Board of Health at a meeting next week, states that the city should pursue a federal exemption under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act to decriminalize possession of small amounts of illegal drugs in Toronto. The status quo approach to the drug poisoning crisis is not working, Dr. Eileen Davila's report to the Board of Health read. There's an urgent need for a comprehensive public health approach to drug policy that removes structural barriers to healthcare and social services, provides alternatives to the toxic drug supply, and enhances and expands services to improve the health and well-being of Toronto's communities. According to data released by the city, there was 531 confirmed drug overdose deaths in Toronto in 2020, making an 81% increase compared to 2019. If granted by Health Canada, this exemption would mean that people found in possession of drugs for personal use in Toronto would not be subject to criminal penalties, the report read. All activities associated with drug trafficking, such as production and sale, would remain illegal and subject to the penalties under the Controlled Substances Act. Toronto Public Health has already initiated a consultation process on moving forward to request the exemption with Toronto, and the move has the support of the Toronto Police Service. Even the police are supporting this here. Dude, fuck yes. In a letter penned last week, Toronto Police Officer James Raymer said the police service, along with the National Association of Chiefs of Police, endorsed the decriminalization of personal possession of illegal drugs. We agree that the current approach to managing drug use does not support safe communities or advance the health of people who use drugs, the letter read. Decriminalization of the simple possession of all drugs combined with the scale up of prevention, harm reduction, and treatment services is a more effective way to address the public health and public safety harms associated with substance abuse. Officials with the Center of Addiction and Mental Health in Toronto have repeatedly called for the decriminalization of substance use, calling it counterproductive and ineffective. We really want to shift from a legal framework and having charges for the simple possession of substance use. We want to shift away from that legal framework because it has not been effective. For one, it creates social harms. Dr. Leslie Buckley, head of the addiction division at CAMH, told CP24 on Monday. When you're in recovery trying to make changes in your life, and you are also facing a criminal charge, that is profoundly difficult. Also, it increases stigma, which we are really looking to reduce, and it might make you hide when you are using a substance, which is really the last thing we want to do during this opioid crisis. Toronto is not the first jurisdiction in Canada to make this request. Both the city of Vancouver and the province of BC are seeking federal approval to decriminalize the possession of small amounts of illegal drugs. The Controlled Drugs and Substance Act is administered by Health Canada and establishes the legislative framework that regulates the possession, distribution, and sale of unregulated drugs in Canada, Davila's report said. Under Section 556(1) of the Act, the Federal Minister of Health has the authority to exempt jurisdictions, including municipalities and provinces, from provisions of the Act that criminalize drugs if the minister deems it necessary for a medical purpose or it is in the public interest. She noted that supervised consumption services had been permitted to operate in jurisdictions across the country using the federal authority. The Board of Health will vote on the recommendation at its next meeting on December 6th. So they haven't gotten there quite yet. December 6th is the date. That's the date we're looking at, right? I think that's awesome. I think that the U.S. should do the same thing. They did it in Oregon already, and I think that trend should continue. You know, the biggest thing we face with any, kind of drug culture is simply people getting bad product, people getting dangerous product. The criminal enterprises that are created in order to facilitate the purchase and sale of said drugs, which creates a perfect lane for exploitation of the meekest among us. If you legalize it, regulate it, put it through a system where we know that people are getting good product that's clean and safe, I think the overall outcomes in our societies are going to be different. Less crime, more satisfaction. You'll probably even have less people doing drugs because there's, easier outlets and avenues to get off drugs, when you're ready,